Hello and welcome to the FATBOSS guide to Dark Inquisitor Xanesh on normal and heroic in Ny'alotha.
Yes, this single phase fight is the one where you get to play football in groups of 3. If you don't manage to score a goal and end up hitting the ball into some terrain, then you'll one-shot the raid. Now before we jump into how the ball mechanic works, let's talk about the other things the boss does.
So tanks have to taunt off each other after each abyssal strike. This large magic damage hit knocks back and applies a 1-minute debuff that increases the damage you take from this ability by 50%. Make sure that you position yourself in such a way so that you aren't knocked into Azshara's void wall in the middle of the room as it hurts, or off the edge of the platform as that will instantly kill you. For the entire raid to watch out for is the Torment. These are zones that come from the middle of the room towards the edges, and they come in 3 times in a row. The first 2 are quite easy to dodge as there's always a nearby safe spot, but the third set of zones covers the majority of the room, so do not hang around and finish off a cast, make sure you dodge it as soon as you can, otherwise you will take a ridiculous amount of damage. On top of this, a large portion of the raid will be targeted by Soulflay. This spawns a shadow version of yourself near your current location. This shadow will then explode 10 seconds later, dealing a lethal amount of damage to that player that it spawned from, but this damage does drop off with distance, so you simply just need to move away from your shadow to survive the hit. Generally speaking, as long as you are out of the orange animation your ad has, you should be safe. So that everyone can continue to hit the boss whilst moving away from their shadows, the entire raid should really stick with Xanesh throughout the fight, and just move as a single unit each time the Soulflays appear. And just to note, with Soulflay, it can overlap with Torment, which can lead to some pretty nasty situations. If you're ever forced to stand closer to your ad than you want to, then it's probably a good idea to use a personal. Lastly to mention, on Heroic, the boss will spawn obelisks around the room. These slow and deal damage to you if you stand within their aura, so be careful when moving around the room. But let's move on to the actual meat of the encounter, the football.
Yes, so when the boss reaches full energy, she will start a void ritual, spawning 3 zones around her. Each zone needs to be soaked by a single player, otherwise the ritual will fail and the raid will take a lethal burst of damage. When the ritual is complete, 2 portals will spawn on opposite sides of the room. One will have a crazy blue animation, that's where the void orb spawns from, and the other has a red ring around it, and that's where you need to knock the void orb into. The 3 players who took part in the ritual are now void woken. This reduces their damage dealt by 99%, but it allows them to interact with the void orb. So this orb will spawn from the blue portal after around 10 seconds and will slowly drift towards the middle of the room. If the orb ever touches Azshara's void barrier, or the edge of the room, or any of the obelisks, it will explode, dealing a survivable but large burst of damage to the raid, whilst giving the boss a 50% attack speed increase, and an additional buff which makes the next void orb explosion 100% lethal. The Void Woken players need to redirect the orb around the room and into the goal by touching the orb, which redirects it, making it drift in the direction the player was facing. If the orb does happen to touch a non-Void Woken player, it will just deal damage to them and knock them back, not change the orb's direction. Now do note, when interacting with the orb, you don't actually need to kick it like a football, you can simply just let it bounce off you. Also, the orb redirects as soon as it hits your character's hitbox, just make sure you take this into account when lining up your shots. On Heroic, do make sure you pay attention to the formation of the obelisks and make sure that you plan out your hits before the Void Ritual begins. Now certain classes can actually solo this job very easily, like a Demon Hunter or a Mage, they're really good classes for it. However, when you redirect the orb, you will gain a stack of a 6-second debuff. If this ever reaches 5 stacks, you instantly die, so make sure that you leave at least a 6-second gap between your hits if you're touching the orb multiple times. Once the orb reaches the goal, the Void Woken players lose their debuff and the fight continues on from there. However, on Heroic, the Void Woken players will become Void Touched for around 8 minutes or so, which prevents you from becoming Void Woken again. So you should make sure that you set up at least 4 football teams before you pull the boss on Heroic, and assign them each a ritual to complete. But that's pretty much the boss. Do football and dodge the spooky stuff.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, then give us a like, and before you do go, make sure you check out our written guide over on Wowhead. It has lots of handy notes and easy to understand images, which you can use to refresh your memory of this fight before you hit your raid. A link for that can be found in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you all in the next one.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.